Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Pecos On The Move. It is a Monday morning. It is the 20th day of July, 2026. We hope your morning is going well, and thank you so much for spending part of it with us right here on the radio. We have joining us live in the studio this morning Mr. Jimmy Dutchover. He is Executive Director of the Pecos Economic Development Corporation, the PEDC. Jimmy, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Bill. How are you doing?
Doing fine, and you have one of your assistants, one of your interns here in the studio this morning joining us, and they're operating the camera and here with us this morning. And of course, we want to welcome Lila Gonzalez and Kaylin Salcido. Thank y'all both for being here, ladies. We do appreciate it very much. And Jimmy, I know you're very proud of your staff. They do a great job.
They have. You know, it's been a work in progress, but when Lila first came on board, it took us actually 6 months for me to hire someone, and then the interns came in next, and then of course we have Heather Nichols, who is helping us out with the finance and the special projects. So it's great to have a great team actually working for us, Bill.
All right, very good. Well, diversification is our topic of the day today, Jimmy, and building more than one path to success, and diversifying today, securing tomorrow, and honoring our roots, expanding our future. That's what we're going to be covering this morning.
Sounds fair enough.
All right. Now, if Pecos is growing, Jimmy, why doesn't it always feel like it?
Well, Bill, we see projects coming in intervals. It's not always that everybody's in town doing everything at one time. Mm-hmm. So it takes the planning process, the design process, the building process to do it properly. Economic growth and the community transforms based upon the investments that we get from outside investors. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not always the locals that are wanting to do it. Sometimes the locals are willing to expand, but for most part, it's a planning process. Our focus has been, of course, to diversify away from the oil and gas, not to distance ourselves from it, but to embrace other avenues that you can generate revenue and jobs. And with it comes that housing that is so essential, not only for the people that would be coming into our community, but for the shortage of housing that we don't have right now for even our residents. So it's constantly a long-term process that we have to work through. Mm-hmm. And once we set up a plan, myself, the board of directors, the town of Pecos City, the county, in some instances, the hospital districts, the ESD 1 and 2. It's a team effort. It's just not one avenue of one person saying this is the way it has to be. It's a collaboration of everybody, Bill.
So what may seem like slow today is often a result of long-term projects that are already in progress.
And Lincoln East is going to be that prime example. Mm-hmm. You know, sure. You think about it, well, how long was it on the books before it was ever implemented? Mm-hmm. Years and years. You know, former Commissioner Alvarado had a plan. Mm-hmm. He knew that land would be valuable at one time. The land was secured. And then here we go after years, 2.5 years of really planning between the county and the Economic Development Corporation. So it's taken its process. And then as an extension, then it starts to move over to the west side so that we can get all the way up to where the hotels are.
Now, why do people struggle to believe in the growth and diversification occurring in Pecos?
You know, sometimes it's lack of knowledge. Sometimes it's that they're caught off guard because they don't hear the programs that, you and I are putting on. Sometimes they don't see it for themselves. And, I ran into a gentleman back in Corpus Christi one time when I was out at the beach enjoying a vacation. He asked me where I was from, and I said, Pecos, Texas. He said, oh, Pecos, Texas, the place of dreamers where nothing ever gets done. Oh. I wish I could meet that gentleman today and look him in the face and say, you were wrong. Look at what the city's been able to do. Look what the county's been able to do, the hospital, the school district, ESD 1, 2, the water district, and the Economic Development Corporation. But I don't think I'm ever going to get that chance.
Now, why do people still associate Pecos primarily with oil and gas? I know, as you said, to start things off, we're working on diversification and still embracing, certainly, oil and gas. But why do we still see Pecos associated primarily with oil and gas?
Well, Bill, this is the Delaware Basin is the largest producer of oil and natural gas inside the contiguous 48 states. So we have a wealth of natural resources. And now we have the ability to transport that oil and gas, and as when other times we didn't have that ability. Mm-hmm. So many people have invested their money in business thinking that it's all about oil and gas, and it's not. That's not necessarily the case. If we go back to some of the things that we've had in the past, we talk about the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. It was farming and ranching. You look at the 60s and 80s, where it was a test track in Duval. Then immediately after that came the prisons through the 90s and all the way up to the 2020 on or about. You had the frozen food of Anchor. Then you had the present of the oil and gas. But now the diversification of oil and gas. What can we do with that natural gas that we're flaring off and make it a treasure? And that's the thing that I keep on telling people. If the natural gas is causing us the problems, or people think that it's causing us the problems with asthma and things of that nature, how do we capture it and not flare off as much? Well, it's through a diversification, and that's where the Pecos power plants came in. That's where some of these data centers are looking at converting the natural gas or using it for their energy source, and then not reduce the amount of flaring. So where natural gas was so cheap years and years ago, and sometimes they were paying you to take it, now they're going to have to pay for it to be used. The other part about it is that for the longest time, we didn't have the transportation component to move oil. So it was trucked out, it was trained out. Now it's actually going through pipelines. So, technology catches up with us. At one time we had 90 rigs, Bill, back in after COVID. And technology changed it because the engineers kept on getting better and better. And now we're down to 30 to 35 rigs that are working out here in this area.
All right. So the diversification, that's evidence, just some of the evidence you just gave there about these diversification industries that are underway, these projects, and once these projects and others come to fruition, we'll see more diversification there. Right?
You will, and we're seeing right now a tremendous amount of construction. You see it at the school district. The construction people are out here eating. They're spending their time here for 4, 5, 6 days out of the week. Right now, some of them are having to stay and work overtime because the school district has to be prepared for the August open dates. So they're spending their time and their money here. So the construction, once those construction jobs get here, Bill, you realize that, wait a minute, it's right around the corner before we start to see those big changes. It'll happen, and we've had multiple job fairs recently. One with Infinium, which is the conversion, the refinery that actually converts natural gas to diesel and jet fuel for the West Coast. Then you have Pecos power plants through Wadzilla. Those big engines that were out there on the laydown yard are now put inside the warehouses. And they are now hiring or interviewing and hiring prospective clients to come over here. And then you have the construction at CVB, which is another power plant conversion that is outside of the town of Pecos City, but in Ward County. And then you have another group that is called Knox Construction that are hiring. They're looking for engineers, construction, site managers, then welders, everything that are going to be needed to put up plants. They're knocking on our doors right now asking us, where is this manpower going to come from? And we're working with the Texas State University system and the Texas Workforce Commission to see those individuals that are unemployed and have the skill set that can help us with this construction, that they have the opportunity for good jobs that are going to be right here in our backyard. They're not going to have to travel very far. But with that also comes, guess what? The people from Fort Stockton, the people from Monahans that are living over there because they have a more affordable house payment than they could have over here in Pecos, Texas. So housing is going to solve some of the problems, not all of them, but with it you have to have that infrastructure. And that's where the city comes in. That's where the Economic Development Corporation comes in. To think that the EDC has a war chest that we're not willing to use, it goes back to number one. You have to plan so that you can design and then you can build. And that's where it takes that cooperation between all the taxing entities and the EDC.
These things and others should convince more people that growth and diversification are real here in Reeves County and the city of Pecos.
They are, and the time, Bill, we see it in our backyard, but we don't always agree with it, or that we see it and it's not happening fast enough. You start to ask the federal officials and the state officials, and they're like, wow, when did all this happen? Because they're not here all the time. They don't have eyes on the ground. But to the point of where we see it, all you have to do is look at the sales tax averages of where we are now as to compare to where we've been in the past. One of the visits that you and I had a few weeks ago talked about sales tax,
right,
and how Andrews would always beat us. That's not going to be the case anymore, Bill. Projectedly, right now, we are going to end up with almost $11 million worth of sales tax inside the town of Pecos City. That's not in Reeves County. That's just here. Andrews will be at about $9.6 million. Fort Stockton, $5.5 million. And Monaghan, $6.2. That money in Fort Stockton and Monaghan's is leakage. They are dollars that we're not capturing because the people are living out in Fort Stockton and Monaghan's. So we have to do a better job of trying to work with the city officials to understand what their role is and what the role is of the Economic Development Corporation.
All right. Now, I do know we do have building projects, housing projects. Of course, we have some that are underway. I know there are others in the planning stages, but we should start seeing a lot of new housing, apartments, that sort of thing coming online here in the not too distant future then, right?
Bill, we're going to see it. It's just not at the speed at what we would like, because at the end of the day, the bankers and the investors, and then also those individuals that are putting up their own money, are saying, okay, how can you assure me that there's going to be a turnaround in this? When we have the internal fighting or the internal questioning about what role is for A and what role is for B and what role is for C, it will sometimes put a barrier, and they'll have questions as to whether they really want to invest in our area. We have to be a better stewards of working together to get that message out.
And just with the recent announcement from Microsoft and Chevron on the new project south of town, and they're talking about literally thousands of construction jobs. Where are these people going to stay?
That's the question.
So that's the $1 million question then.
The good thing that happened with the Chevron and the Microsoft is the abatements that were issued from the county. They're going to have to do so many performance components to be able to get those abatements.
Okay.
That it's almost telling the people, you better live in Pecos, and you better be a registered voter here, and you better be a resident, and you better be active, and if not, we're not going to get our percentage of what the commissioners basically are allowing us to get in an abatement.
So there are some incentives then in order for them to locate here.
They get the incentives, but they have a lot of tiebacks, or what we would refer to as a clawback. You have to do A, B, C, and D to get those incentives, and if you don't do them, well, don't come knocking at the door, because at the end of the day, you were told these were the parameters. And if you're not going to do it, that's your problem, not ours.
All right.
Now, it will cause the city and the county some headaches, because we're not 100% ready for any of this immediate growth. But if you look at Abilene, it's pumped a lot of money into their city sales tax component, so much that they're starting to look at where the pay raises that they were never getting before. They're going to be able to get some of those city employees and government employees. So
right.
It'll even out eventually, Bill.
All right, very good. Anything new on the retail front that you can share with our listeners this morning?
Not yet. We're having our visits constantly with those individuals. One of the executives from or higher management, upper management, got a hold of me over the weekend and wanted to talk about the same thing, because they know that they're going to need all these things for their staff and their people to want to relocate to Pecos. Because once the construction jobs are gone, they're still going to have echelon and people that are up the tiers that are going to have to work in the area. It's just not going to be secretarial and operational. They're going to have management components as well, Bill.
All right. So there will be permanent jobs with these projects following construction.
They will, and then that leads to more people that are going to be on the census, more people that are going to be shopping over here, the sales tax going up, and then eventually people saying, maybe we didn't need to invest quicker in Pecos than we thought we needed to. But it goes back to the planning, the designing, and the building out properly.
Could we safely say there are retail concerns, eateries, things like that are seriously looking at Pecos right now?
We have. From the last time that we visited, Bill, we had a group that came in from Hobbs that has project that they're wanting to bring into Pecos that is anywhere from 20 to 40,000 square feet of building space that they need, which is a huge area that they're going to need. And then we talk about the successes and things that happen, more delayed. And Grissom Chevrolet is one. We had a target for them to come in by the end of December or January of 2026, and they didn't get operational until the end of May. So again, it goes back to that investment component from the people that are outside supporting Jeff Grissom. And hopefully if those individuals hadn't have a chance, go out there to the Chevrolet house. They're expanding, they're remodeling, and they're even looking at expanding.
All right, very good. Well, anything you want to add before we wrap up this morning, Jim?
No, just a great shout out or big shout out to the individuals that work with me, Bill, the town of Pecos City officials and that of the county. That old adage of Pecos is on the move or Pecos on the move. We are doing our best to do everything we can to solidify Pecos as the area where if you don't want to go to Midland, Odessa, and you don't want to go to El Paso to shop, just come over here to Pecos and do all your shopping.
And, of course, Pecos on the Move is the name of our program.
That's exactly right.
And, of course, we're here on Monday mornings at this time. We do this program live on Monday mornings, and then we replay it on 98.3 FM on Saturday mornings around 9:15. So if you want to listen to it again, you can hear that on 98.3 FM on Saturday mornings. But we're live on Mondays, so, join us.
Bill, to the listening audience, those individuals who don't catch it at either one of the times that you stated, just go to the website. By Friday, what we do on Monday is up and operational on Fridays.
All right. And of course, that's where Kaylin and Lila and the staff come in. They put this together, and of course, it's available there on the website, and they can view it and see this interview each week that way. So thank you very much. We appreciate y'all coming in and sharing information with our listeners. We look forward to this time every Monday morning. All right.
Thank you for having us, Bill.
You bet. That's